Now. Andrew says now. Oh. Good morning. Good morning. How are you enjoying the warmer weather? Be careful out there, it's icy. Yeah, it's very icy out there. Please be careful. My name is Reverend Rosemary Morrison. My pronouns are she and her, and it is my pleasure and honor to serve this congregation, the Unitarian Church of Edmonton. We gather here this morning to be together as a community, to give one another support in our mutual search for truth and meaning, and to bolster one another up and to be friends and go for coffee together and all those really good things that happen when we are in community. We are one of two Unitarian Universalist congregations here in the greater Edmonton area. The other one is in Park Allen, the Park Allen neighborhood in the south. We don't call it South Shore here, do we? We call it the South Side. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. We as Unitarian Universalists believe in the right to explore our faith and beliefs. However, as I said, we wish to do so within the context of community. We shape our services around the year-round again on themes, the Soul Matters themes, and this month the theme is inclusion. And these themes are a way to focus our spiritual growth and our learning. UUs pride themselves on being inclusive, diverse, justice-seeking, and compassionate. We gather to find meaning and person and purpose and to feel connected to something that is even this much greater than ourselves. I would like to recognize and acknowledge that we are gathering on Treaty 6 territory, a gathering place of folk that have lived here for thousands and thousands of years, an important trading post for them, and then later on as post contact. May we seek to understand what reconciliation means individually and as a community. And I think there are a few announcements, so we'll go into announcements next. I know that Declan has one, and he'll need to come down, so I will start with letting everyone know that this Wednesday is UU's on Tap at 3 Vikings, just around the corner. I get really turned around inside the building because there's no windows. I think it's over there. No, it's over there. What did I say? I get really... oh, yeah, it is, isn't it? Okay, yeah, I get it now. All right. And I will be there at 6 o'clock, and so please join me anytime. You can show up earlier if you like. There will be a table reserved for us. It's a wonderful opportunity to get together and in a social, laid-back atmosphere and just get to know our fellow congregants. Declan, I'll let you go next, and then I have one more.
Good morning. My name is Declan. My pronouns are he, him. I'm here to tell you once again about the movie night. Please don't get sick of me telling you about the movie night.
No.
So it is next Friday, February 28th, right here at the church. We're screening a movie for free, and that movie is The Public, which will fit in with our theme of inclusion. So please come on out. I actually won't be there, but my co-runner, Pauline, will be taking charge for this movie night. Go attend, have a great night, for free. Bring your own snacks and drinks and food, what have you. Right here in the sanctuary, The Public, February 28th, 6 p.m. Thank you.
So I think it would be important, after losing someone as important as Dorothy Keeler, that we take a moment and talk about that. We were surprised at the email that I received this week, I believe on the 18th, from Dorothy's son, letting me know that she had passed that day. I've received 0 details about the death. I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know why. I do know that on May 30th, there will be, it's around May 30th, Scott has been in contact with Janet in the office and has booked the sanctuary and the building for a Saturday at the end of May. We've also recently lost Beth Jenkins, so two very important, prominent people in our congregation have left us recently, even though they may not have been really active in the latter years of their life. They were still very important and incredibly important to the founding and the development of this congregation. It is in my heart that we should not wait for May to gather, and that we don't need to. And so I'm proposing that I set aside a couple of dates in March for us to gather, and we'll have some refreshments, and we'll just sit around and share stories and light candles and light a chalice and that kind of thing. Does that sound like something that we might need? And I would do one for online only as well, because mixing online and in-person events don't work very well for the people online. So I would do 2 of those. So an online gathering and one in person. And probably the in-person one would be right after a service in March, probably the second service in March. And the one online would probably not be right after the service, as I know many people head off to their lunch right after that is being served in their homes. So we'll find a different date, and I'll maybe talk to the folks online about that. How does that sound? That is a proposal. I was just about to say, please turn off your devices, but thank you for the reminder. Does that sound appropriate? And yes, okay. Audrey, you had your hand up. Was there anything you wanted to tell me?
No, I was just thinking that for the March service that
Well, then it's International Women's Day, and Audrey will be speaking that day, and I will be service leading for her, just as I am doing today for Lori Campbell. So that might be a really good Sunday to have a gathering after. So I'll make sure that we can book the sanctuary. I don't get, if it's already booked, I don't get to bounce them out. So I will make those arrangements, I'll make those plans, and I will let you know by, we'll have it out in the newsletter and in the weekly emails to make sure that people are aware that this is happening. And now, I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths, to settle into our service, to take some time for yourself, for your own rest, for your own spirit, as it were, and turn off your noise-emitting devices if you have them with you and they are on. And as you're doing that, you could always check in on Facebook or someplace, wherever you do the thing. And as we listen and center to a prelude presented by our own Gordon Ritchie. Thank you. Before we light our chalice, and I'll invite our Minister Emeritus, Reverend Brian Kiley, up to light our chalice, I'd like to welcome and introduce my omission. I'd like to welcome and introduce Dr. Laurie Campbell, one of our newer members here at UCE. And there was a bio in the weekly news, e-news, and Laurie is a professor of equity, diversity, and inclusion at Grant MacEwan, and she has some great stories she'll be telling us. So Brian, if I could invite you to come and light our chalice for us this morning. Belonging by Chad Snyder. To belong is to be longing for a space to be held, and that will hold friend, stranger, neighbor, other, for silences, broken by songs of the silenced for time that does not stretch, but encircles. To belong is to be longing for wholeness of the beloved of all who belong and are longing. Thank you. Speaking of longing, our first hymn has the word long in it. Isn't that handy? Nice segue. So hymn number 6, Just As Long As I Have Breath. It's in the charcoal hymn book, and it's one of my favorites. It's asking us to say yes to life. Please rise as you are able in body or in spirit and sing, Just As Long As I Have Breath.
Rain, I made my
headed over here to get the book. So when Laurie and I were planning this service, I asked her, "What do you have a reading in mind? What would you like?" And she said, "I love it when you tell a story or read a story." So thank you, because I love it too. There you go. I'll move out of the way, and yeah, perfect. You knew exactly what I was going to say. Thank you. And the book, I was tossed up between reading this one last week at the family-friendly service. How many of you know that once a month I do a family-friendly service? How many of you know that? Not everybody. The third Sunday of every month is a family-friendly service, and it usually has an activity, not a sermon. Okay? All right. So, we're breaking away from tradition. We're going to read a children's story because I love children's stories, and there's so much learning in a children's story. So this is called Strictly No Elephants by Lisa Mantchev and illustrated by Taeeun Yo. For a story, Laurie. Yeah. As we prepare for that time in the service where we share our abundance, I'd like to remind you that we are a free church, not governed by a diocese or any governing body, but we are responsible for our own upkeep, our own running of the service. Thank you, Yvonne and Donna. We are... Every month, we collect an offering, and half of the unidentified cash stays with us, and the other half goes to a charity of choice. This month, it's the Canadian Unitarian Council. And the Canadian Unitarian Council is an organization of Unitarian Universalist member congregations acting to enhance, nurture, and promote the Unitarian and Unitarian Universalist religion in Canada. It is a beacon for Unitarian Universalist communities across Canada, providing them with leadership, support, and connection as they strive to foster a just and sustainable world and to enrich the spiritual lives of their members. One of the things that I have really appreciated in the last while is the 5 aspirations of the Canadian Unitarian Council. And these are deeply connected. We strive to foster healthy relationships amongst and within UU communities, with the broader world and with all life. Radically inclusive. We strive to create hospitable, diverse, multi-generational communities. Actively engaged. We strive to work joyfully for a just and compassionate society, experimenting with new forms of community. Theologically alive, we seek to be ever evolving in our understanding, open to new knowledge, and spiritually grounded. We seek transformation through personal spiritual experiences and shared ritual. I can tell you that this congregation and every congregation that I have worked with has benefited from the leadership of the Canadian Unitarian Council. When I've needed to put up a flag and say, help, they are there, and they help me. And I also was given many grants, and they also provide support, financial and otherwise, to people in formation, i.e. students, and I certainly was the recipient of that. So thank you for giving generously to this congregation and to the Canadian Unitarian Council. And with that, let's sing our offering in with hymn 402, From You I Receive. Sorry, Declan, I'm wandering about. He doesn't like that. It's hard to keep the camera on me. The next hymn is our hymn of the month, Belonging by Christopher New. And if anyone that knows it really well would mind, if they wouldn't mind coming and singing here into the microphone, because it is an unfamiliar song for the most part. Thank you. That's probably good. Thanks. Okay, so for the rest of us, no, you too, Dave. I was meaning you too. I'm not telling you what to do. Sorry. Well, I can't help it. Thank you for offering to sing and to help the congregation. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing the hymn of the month. This is a place of belonging. Thank you. As a service leader, I get to do a service leader reflection. Exactly, Audrey. Audrey said, uh-oh. You can't get much past me, Audrey. And what I want to talk about is the service we had last week. How many were here last week? Quite a few of you, and there was folks online. The folks online had a different activity, so they weren't here. They didn't see what we did. They didn't see the same thing. So I'm going to briefly describe the activity for those that weren't here and those of you that were online. So as I mentioned before, the third Sunday of each month is a family-friendly service. And so what I wanted to create was an opportunity, if there was a bunch of kids, they would have fun, and there would be like a surface activity, and that activity was giving each other Valentines, right? So we all were given 3 Valentines, and an envelope, and we filled them out to people, and then we passed them around, kind of like we used to do in grade school. So that was the surface activity, right? To give each other Valentines. We as humans seek out the familiar and the comfortable. So my point, the deeper meaning of the exercise, is that if we wish to be inclusive, we have to be shown that we are naturally not inclusive. We are not drawn to that automatically. That Valentine's activity was designed to show us that. I can't tell you that because you won't believe me, but I can show you with your own actions. So that was the deeper meaning of the activity. Not to show anybody that they were bad, but to actually see it in action, that as humans we are hardwired to gravitate towards comfort, towards the familiar. And that's not a bad thing, because it kept us out of the saber-toothed tiger's mouth, right? So we stayed with the people we knew were safe. And that's how we evolved. That's how we stayed safe, was by gravitating to the familiar. So if we wish to become inclusive, a truly inclusive community, it's actual work. We have to fight against these tendencies, these natural, normal, human tendencies, and our desire to seek out our favorites or those, and I'm just as guilty as the next person for doing this. I seek out my favorites and visit with them after church. I try to get around to others as well. So in order to be actually inclusive, it's important that we scan the room. Who's here? Who's being involved? Who knows how to get a cup out of the coffee, over at the coffee thing? I noticed one time recently somebody standing there at the coffee thing and going, I really want coffee. I don't know where the cups are. Why aren't there any cups out? So somebody kindly told them that they needed to open the cupboard and find them and pick out their favorite cup. So what I said here on paper, I don't look at the paper very often anymore. We have to actively scan the room and take notice of who is being left out, who doesn't know what to do, like my example of the coffee cup, who feels awkward and alone, and maybe who is getting all the attention. Maybe you divert your attention somewhere else. It doesn't come automatically. And we can't fix it until we understand our behavior is actually exclusive sometimes. All of us are exclusive sometimes. We can't help but. It's not a put down of any kind or suggesting that anybody is bad or doing things wrong. We are only human, and being truly inclusive asks us to pay closer attention and to fight against our natural and normal tendencies. I remember, it's kind of like thinking about our implicit bias, right? Like, who are we? We are hardwired again to keep safe, to gravitate towards that we know. And there are stereotypes out there that we are bombarded with on a daily basis. I remember when I was living in Indiana, and I was walking down the street, and it was dark. I lived downtown. It's a small city, and a very tall, big black man was walking towards me on the side of my sidewalk. And I felt instant fear. And I had to say to myself, would you be feeling this degree of fear if this was a white man walking towards me? I had to really check my own implicit bias, because I was raised, and we all were, in kind of this milieu of what we know and what is familiar and what is close to us. It's what we're used to. And so to become inclusive is an action. It's not, we can't just say we are. We actually have to check within ourselves to to see how we are behaving towards one another and notice who is being left out, who's not invited. That's a lot. Thank you for listening. I figured probably we should sing after that. So we are a gentle, angry people. 170, a Holly Near song. One time I did a service on the music and theology of Holly Near. I'd like to do it again. Would anybody be interested in that? She is so amazing. Holly Near, we are a gentle, angry people, hymn number 170 in the charcoal hymn book. Please rise in body or in spirit. I've been told. So let's have a seat and take a couple breaths. She's being attended to. If they need to call anyone, they will. She'll be okay. She just needs a few minutes. So let's just, while we're just getting uncombobulated. Okay, John has to turn that microphone on.
It's a distraction, okay. I wanted to say that I met Holly Near and Chris Williamson in Bangor, Maine in 1982 as part of a march of over 1,000 people for the murder of Charlie Howard. He was a young gay person who was a member of our Unitarian congregation there, and it was the 150th anniversary of Bangor, Maine. And they were having big celebrations. And on his way home from the celebration, some high school students beat him up and threw him over the bridge into the Kentucky stream, going right into the ocean. And I was at the seminary for 3 weeks, and it was a very divided seminary because we had evangelicals, Unitarians, and all of the Quakers and so on. And Jerry Falwell was in Bangor, Maine, and he congratulated the 3 students who were charged. They got 6 weeks in a youth detention center. So people from Boston and all over the place came to Bangor, Maine, and we sang this song. And every year in Bangor, Maine, in honor of Charlie Howard, there is still a memorial service in July of the year. I just wanted to share that because I can't sing that song without crying. Thank you.
I'll introduce you. Thanks, Audrey. Dr. Laurie Campbell is new to our church. She's one of our newer members, and I am delighted to introduce you to her to you as our guest speaker this morning. Laurie?
Good morning. Morning. Thank you, Reverend Rosemary, both for that introduction and that very flattering bio in the newsletter. Every time someone says Dr. Laurie Campbell, I kind of look around like, who are they talking about? My pronouns are she and her. It's a really great privilege and honor to be asked to deliver the message today on inclusion, and I couldn't agree more that it's action. As Reverend Rosemary described in my bio, equity, diversity, and inclusion have been a personal and professional passion of mine for most of the years of my life and through all my career. And in thinking about what I was going to say this morning, I was also reflecting on Jeff's message last week about woke and how it had been appropriated and compromised, his words, for particular political agendas, how it had been decontextualized from a very meaningful and practical idea that was a matter of keeping your head up, keeping safe, and being aware. I was also thinking about Reverend Rosemary's words through the act of storytelling, how it opens up spaces for belonging. I couldn't agree more with that. So there's never a bad time for a kid's book. That's my view. So rather than taking the academic route, as I usually do, and usually my go-to strategy, I've chosen to tell you a couple of stories of my own life and thinking about Reverend Rosemary's previous message today about how it is that we kind of embed inclusion as an idea and concept and action in our own lives. It isn't always say, be included, be inclusive. It isn't like that at all. You're so right. But those kind of learnings that we do with each other, the communities that we live in, these are the things that resonate with us in terms of inclusion. I've got 2 stories of my own life that form my very early and sustained idea of inclusion before anyone had ever really heard the term. So I'd like to share those with you this morning. Could I have the first photo, please? The other one. This is a picture of my mom and dad, Pat and Bill Campbell, somewhere back in the 70s when I was in junior high school. They had 3 girls. I was the youngest. The next was Sue, who sadly died of breast cancer about 14 years ago, and I miss her every day. And then the eldest, Katie. You know how my adult life unfolded, as Reverend Rosemary's described, but I want to tell you a bit about Sue and Kate. Sue was a philosophy professor at Dalhousie University in Halifax. She was very renowned in the academic community for her commitment to students, first of all, but also for using her tools of brilliance to fight against things like sexism and racism. She did ethics and theory of the emotions, which she always took to the communities. She wrote an award-winning book about the memory wars. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Do you remember the movement around false memory syndrome? Yeah. So Sue wrote a book about that, pushing back against it using her philosophy, and it was a book that became recommended reading for the entire justice system, for police officers, and so on. She was, for people that don't know, it was false memory syndrome was a pushback, almost like woke, to women that were recovering, they said, surfacing buried trauma of sexual and other assaults. So quite a movement. She also wrote 2 foundational papers for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission on memory. That was another part of her work. She was just really a remarkable woman. Also a poetry writer and beer drinker, I have to add. Katie, my oldest sister, similarly did pioneering work in instructional design as a woman in that profession. She took her academic life in unique and impactful directions, talking about instructional design as meaning-making. She was the dean of the Faculty of Extension at the U of A for several years, and I love this. She always described her mission as the scholarship of community engagement. We grew up in an Edmonton neighborhood of Calder, which was, mixed sort of socioeconomic, daughter of a teacher and a car dealership finance manager, so really solidly middle class. And so I wondered to myself, how did this all happen, these three girls with PhDs doing this work? Well, I got two really important lessons from my imperfect but loving parents. My dad taught me the great art and value of sociability. Everyone was welcome in our home. Well, unless you were a total jerk and you weren't welcome in our home. But Dad gave everyone a chance. And his unique gift of deeply understanding the meaning that people attach to their own lives was so impactful on me. He would spend hours at our dining room table drinking rum and coke and smoking Pall Malls. It's the 70s. Drawing people out. My friends adored him. And my best friend is here today who can attest to that. Everyone felt they belonged. My mom was an exemplary junior high school teacher. She taught, like junior high, that's a particular breed of person, I think. She taught English. And she taught, I guess, in what you would call those days, maybe even these days, kind of rough areas. Those were the days when kids were predetermined to have certain kinds of potential. So like the really smart kids were in 9A, and the kids were just trying to keep out of jail were in 9X. And so my mom taught 9X. Of course, she taught 9X. If you had this, I'm reminded of a quote I came across a few years ago by Dr. Crystal Jones, a doctor of chiropractic medicine. And the quote was, quote, "There's a huge difference between all are welcome and this was created for you," unquote. That was my mom. She had a very high but not unreasonable expectations for her students, but she brought all the incredible skills and forces of her teaching passion to bear to help them be successful. I remember doing homework in the other room as my mom and the many teachers she mentored sitting around the kitchen table drinking rum and coke and smoking Pall Mall. Sorry, that's the home I grew up in. The conversation was all about how can we be better teachers for the students? How can we prepare our classrooms with them in mind? Not about administration, not about the principal, not about parents, nothing like that, just about the kids. What does she teach me about inclusion? Like Brene Brown talks about, there's no more important doorway to drop your armor at than the door of a classroom. You are welcome here. I recognize you and your strengths, and we're going to create a community of belonging together. And yes, you will certainly pass your English departmental. The next picture, please. This is me, a much younger, maybe not so obviously, a much younger me. This is my first assignment in the NWT. It was called Lac-Mart then, but it's now Wati. They've reclaimed their indigenous name. My mom died when I was 26, and with totally inadequate emotional resources to cope, I went north. I had an awful first week. I brought my white ESL teaching practice to an indigenous community of 250, a fly-in community about 250 miles, too, north of Yellowknife. I wore nylons. It was 40 degrees most days. Blow. Here I am in my nylons. I was lonely, I was shell-shocked, I was so naive. The first week I ended up in the principal's office at the school. That's where the classroom was, and it was in the home ec room. It was so cool. We were in the home rec room learning literacy together, and while the elder women in the community prepared caribou stew for lunch. It was really hard to keep their attention. Caribou stew and bannock. Okay, over here. I poured out my troubles after the first week to the principal, and he listened quietly and thoughtfully and said, "I'll go talk to them." He came back and told me how wrong I was. The students really liked me and were confused and sad that I felt that way. When I slunk back into the classroom, it all changed. They reached out to me, dropping by my little log cabin to play crib, taking me into the bush on ski-doos for caribou roasts, taking me to round dances, taking me fishing. They reached out to mitigate what they sensed was my deep loneliness. What did I learn from them? That the value of inclusion always transcends the goals of the business at hand. It underpins what you can do together. It again recognizes how unique we are while engaging us all in supporting and belonging. This picture is of graduation day. The chief gave a speech at one point, kind of loosely translated from Dogwood for me. He said, lots of white people come here, have no idea what's going on, and screw up. You're a white person that came here, you had no idea what was going on, but you managed not to screw up. So you can come back. I was like, ooh, I want that on my resume. So, from the warmth and acceptance of my family home to the cold and bitter days of my joyful classroom, these were the defining experiences of inclusion for me, with no one ever saying the word. And as Jeff said, I hope it doesn't get weaponized and go the wake of woke. It might go the way it broke. I'm optimistic about that. So thank you very much for your attention today and listening to me. And I was just thrilled to be able to talk to you. Thank you, Reverend Rosemary.
Thank you, Lori. I love your stories. Let's take a moment and enter into a time of meditation, contemplation, reflection, whatever word works for you. Always by invitation, never by demand, I invite you to place your feet on the floor. Feel the gravity pull them down. The gravity is strong. Maybe you're at home and you're lying in your bed. Let the bed or the couch or the lovely easy boy chair you're in hold you, just as we are being held here in this space, in this beautiful sanctuary. I invite you to focus in on your breath, to notice the air going in and out of your body. As you breathe in, the air enters your lungs, and your body takes what it needs from the air. That mixture of oxygen and carbon and all the other kinds of things that are in the air. And exhales all the stuff we don't need. We breathe in, we take what we need, and we let go of all that no longer serves us. Perhaps you're struggling with a decision or an upset or a heavy heart. Know that you are held in love by your own heart, by your family or friends, and by this community. I invite you into a time of silence, after which Gordon will bring us out with Spirit of Life. You'll play it through, we'll sing it once, and then maybe hum it a second time. It is a time in our service where we light candles of care and concern, candles of connection. We do this as an embodiment of an action to show that we are human, that we have joys, that we have concerns, that we have worries, that we have celebrations. So the tables are open, the tables are ready, and I invite you to light candles of care, concern, joy, celebration, and sorrow. And if, Audrey, could I ask you to light the first candle, please, for all of us, in memory of our dear Dorothy Keeler, who left us this week. I appreciate it. Thank you. As the last few candles are being lit, Laurie is going to light a candle for all of the joys and sorrows yet to come to the surface, perhaps, yet to enter our consciousness. And yet we know that not all has been revealed. We don't know everything yet. Thank you. Candle lighting is such an important part of who we are as Unitarians and Unitarian Universalists and Universalist Unitarians. So thank you for lighting and creating this beauty. And I like to look at the candles, and I say this quite often, but I look at the candelabras that are lit and all those tea lights in flame, and each one represents a human being with a heart and a mind and a soul, or whatever it is that's we call the soul. I have no idea what that is. So just think about that as we look at the candelabras, the beauty that is represented there, the beauty that is represented in each of us, in our faces and in our smiles and in our greetings of one another, and our including one another and paying attention. First, I would like to thank Lori for agreeing to come and speak with us this morning. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you, Lori. Yes, I think we'd like to hear more from you. I'd also like to thank everyone that contributed and participated in the service, who helped set up, who played music, who did tech things, who wrote messages, all of the things. And who was going to help me put away the candles. Thank you, Fergie. I really appreciate you being here in person and you being here online, and for whomever is watching down the line in the future us being viewed on YouTube channel. So as we come to the end of the service, I'd like us to take a breath and be grateful for the sun and the warmth and the melting snow, which creates ice overnight. So please be careful out there. I was like, on the stairs. So be careful, please. There's a lot of ice out there. So we're going to sing our final hymn, Come and Go With Me to This Land. What is the number? It is 1018. It's a bit of a rouser, so please rise in body and or in spirit. And if you're maybe chair dancing, but get your feet a-tapping. I could invite Reverend Brian back up for extinguishing the flame by Reverend William Schultz. This is the mission of our faith: to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. Thank you. I would like to leave you with this benediction, which I haven't quite memorized. So I'm getting there. A Holy and Generous Love by Alina Westbrook. Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, but we can bend it toward justice. And go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and in the larger world. And go in hope and go in love, for a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our world. Go in peace, hope, love, and courage, gentle people. Amen. And may we rise to sing our linking song. If you are new here, we make a weird circle-y thing. You do not have to hold hands if you don't want to. And we're going to sing Carry the Flame, and the words are going to be behind me. And we're going to come down and join them.